Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's inaction on China's interference into our elections continues to mar his government. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Wareen Kinsella. Brian, there is very little happening on the federal government scene because of this ongoing day after day drip, drip, drip about more information that we find out on Trudeau's inaction when it comes to China. And so what do we know is the latest?
Well, the 319 MPs voted, that was 319 for, 0 against, having the Procedure and House Affairs Committee investigate the intimidation of Michael Chong and his family. It's good that they finally did that, and the Liberals voted with that. Earlier in the week, they actually voted against a motion that denounced this, that called for the expulsion of Zhao Wei, the diplomat they eventually expelled. They voted against calling for a national public inquiry and setting up a foreign agents registry. So they voted against similar things earlier in the week. Then on Wednesday, after the speaker found that Michael Chong's privilege had been violated, that government voted with the Conservatives on this. But what's fascinating, Adrienne, is they're still denying that anyone knew about this CSIS report. Yeah. And yesterday in the House of Commons, Trudeau stood up and said none of his 3 national security advisors, because his Privy Council office was so messed up, they had 3 national security advisors in 2021 alone. They couldn't hang on to one. All 3 of them said, I don't recall seeing this report. So Trudeau uses that, which is a report from Global News, and says, see, nobody saw it. And so, it's not my fault that nothing was done. There's an easy way to determine what has happened here. These are top secret documents. When they are delivered to you, you have to sign for them. You have to keep the hard copy in a safe in your office. We know who got these. And my guess is it was the Privy Council office, including the National Security Advisor, or one of the 8 senior bureaucrats that work for the National Security Advisor. It would have been Global Affairs Canada Minister at the time, Mark Garneau. It would have been his chief of staff, Bill Blair, who was then Public Safety Minister, and his chief of staff. We will have the tracking documents on these. It's simple. Just release them, show them who knew, and then we can find out who knew and didn't act or didn't read. My guess is they did know. They got this 3 weeks before calling the August 2021 election. They didn't want to deal with it.
Wareen, we could fill volumes of copies of the Toronto Sun on endless scandals that Trudeau has endured pretty much since he was elected in 2015. Canadians do forget the conflicts, the spending, the Aga Khan, the $6,000 a night hotel rooms. But this issue on China's interference into our elections, this seems to be resonating. You don't have to know the ins and outs like perhaps we all do. But what Canadians take away from my perspective on this, and you know this better than I do because you actually run elections, is that Trudeau didn't act. Trudeau didn't act in Canada's best interest. So how does this play out moving forward, knowing that we're not anywhere near a federal election?
To me, there is a simple way of expressing it, and the Liberals, I think, are trying to reassure themselves, as they did at their convention in Ottawa last weekend. Oh, it's too complicated. It's hard for people to follow. That's actually not so. 2019, 2021, Justin Trudeau and his chief of staff were informed about Chinese meddling in our democracy, and they did nothing about it, right? 2021, July 2021, CSIS does a memo saying a former cabinet minister and his wife and kids are being targeted by a hostile foreign power. They put it down in writing, and Justin Trudeau knew about it, we think, and did nothing about it. That, to me, is what this story is. If you distill it down to its base elements, what did the Prime Minister do when he found out about it? What did he know, and what did he do about it? And it looks like he did know, and that's what Canadians believe, and he did nothing in every single case here, which leads us back, like in any detective novel, to motive. Why would he not do anything when he found out about interference in 2019 and 2021 and Michael Chong and on, one of his own candidates, over and over? Why does he do nothing? Because I think he's compromised. I think the Chinese as we all know, targeted him for influence. They believed that he was the friendliest voice in the G7. So they gave money to the Trudeau Foundation. And my suspicion is we're going to find out many more things over the coming months about China did to influence Justin Trudeau, because I think it worked.
Brian, the Chinese referred to Justin Trudeau as little potato. And we only just recently expelled one single Chinese diplomat. Look, an action that should have been taken when they kidnapped two of our Canadian citizens, the two Michaels.
Yeah.
So again, yet another example. Now, look, there's 100 plus more Chinese diplomats that are still in Canada. But again, yet another example of inaction, no action, or indifference to what's going on.
Well, you can tell that this issue is starting to hurt them because the Liberals are desperate to change the channel. And if you've been watching what they want to talk about all week, it's abortion. And what do the Liberals run to when they're in trouble? They start talking about abortion and claim that it's under threat in Canada. And the reason it's under threat in Canada right now is a Conservative MP put forward a private member's bill that will never pass that says if you beat up a pregnant woman, you should have a harsher sentence than if the woman's not pregnant. Apparently, the Liberal Party says this will end abortion. They're now pro-beating women, I guess, pregnant women. That seems to be their new talking point. So this is all they want to talk about. That tells you that the Chom story, China's election interference, it's hurting them. They can see it in their internal numbers. They can see it in their support. Maybe they're seeing in their donations. So they're trying to change the channel and talk about something else. The rest of the country is still wondering, why didn't you act? Why didn't you kick out the diplomat that was targeting a Canadian MP for 2 years after you found out about it? That is horrific. It is shameful on his record. And, this will haunt him going into the next election, because the big question we all have to ask for the next election is, how much is China interfering now?
Yeah, and Wareen, I want to give you the last word on this. We're expecting the very questionable special rapporteur that was chosen, David Johnston, former Governor General, who has been very friendly to China over the last, say, 20 some years. He's supposed to issue a report saying whether or not there should be a public inquiry. I think that many of us are skeptical that this is going to be fair and balanced and even-handed. But that said, I think that there is very legitimate question about past elections, to be sure, but now there's other questions being raised about other interference. The city of Vancouver, for example, the mayor's race there. The city of Toronto, the economic engine of Canada, the biggest city in the country, is going through a mayor's race. Where are we in terms of, no, I don't think we'll ever get assurances, but how can we not be skeptical that there isn't some interference in any of these other elections moving forward?
Well, we shouldn't be skeptical, because there is. Just in 2014, the Toronto District School Board, the biggest school board in the country, was rocked by a scandal about the Confucius Institute, which the intelligence agencies have told us is an arm of the Chinese regime designed to influence educational curriculums in North America and Europe. And TDSB's then director, the head of education there, had to resign because, in part, of the Confucius Institute scandal, that they were receiving support from Beijing, and basically, it looks like, to suppress stories and suppress people who are critical of Beijing. Same thing in the Vancouver municipal race a few months ago. So China's tentacles, it is not an exaggeration to say that it's everywhere throughout our democracy and other democracies. Another story in the New York Times today about a bust that took place in Boston involving the same sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Chinese have been at this for quite some time, and we need to get sophisticated about it and smart. That's happening in other places, but not so much in Justin Trudeau's Canada.
So will Justin Trudeau's inaction on China's interference actually hurt him in the next election? Log on to Facebook and Twitter and let us know what you think. And go to the TorontoSun.com. You can hear and see videos and read stories from Wareen and Brian and coverage that you will not find anywhere else.